The training hall echoed with the sound of fists hitting metal. On the far end, machines sparked and hissed as warriors tested their strength. The alien recruits from Zarka Prime stood tall, muscles tense and jaws tight. Their commander had given them a challenge, and they took it personally. In the center of the room stood the reason for their tension. A human, shirtless, calm, barefoot, his hands behind his back. His name was Jackson Price. No one on this side of the galaxy had heard of him before yesterday. Now they couldn't stop staring. Zarkan culture was built on strength. A warrior's value came from how much pain they could inflict and endure. When Jackson had joined the Allied training squad, the Zarkan soldiers assumed he'd be soft, weak, decorative at best. He wasn't. Commander Yelka, one of the strongest female warriors in the Zarkan fleet, stepped forward. Her silver hair was tied in a tight braid. Her orange skin shimmered under the training lights. The lines on her suit flexed with every movement. She smirked at Jackson. "You ready, soft one?" Jackson nodded. "Hit me whenever you like." The crowd laughed. Yelka's voice rang out, full of pride. "Try not to cry in front of the others. It would ruin your species' image." She stepped in close, flexed her knuckles, and drove her fist straight into his abdomen. There was a sound. Not of pain, not of breaking bones. It was something different. The crack came from her hand. Yelka stumbled back, eyes wide. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Her fingers twitched and curled inward. Her knuckles were already turning dark with bruising. Jackson didn't move, not even a grunt. Just a calm smile on his face. Gasps filled the room. Warriors stepped back. A few exchanged confused glances. Someone muttered, "Was that his stomach?" Yelka shook her hand and stared at him. "What in the void are you made of?" Jackson tilted his head. "Standard Earth training. Push-ups, pull-ups, vegetables." "Nothing special," she growled. "You mock me." He shook his head. "You swung. I stood still." What happened wasn't mockery. It was physics. The commander's pride was hit harder than her knuckles. She lunged again, this time with a kick aimed at his ribs. Jackson stepped aside. The momentum carried her off balance. She rolled and landed on her feet, but her breathing had changed. She wasn't laughing anymore. Jackson turned to the others. "Anyone else want to test Earth Steel?" No one moved. Not even the tall one with the spiked shoulders or the quiet one who had broken a combat drone earlier that day. They had all seen what happened. And more importantly, what didn't. The training instructor, a robotica AI named SOAR-9, rolled forward on its treads. Human combat specimen Jackson Price has completed the challenge. Zarkan warriors must update strength evaluation charts. Yelka clenched her injured hand. She wasn't used to losing. Especially not like this. But something in her expression shifted. She wasn't angry anymore. She was curious. Later that evening, Jackson sat alone near the hydro tank, sipping purified water. The training hall was quiet now. Just the hum of generators and distant wind outside the dome. He heard footsteps. Yelka approached, her hand wrapped in a biocast. She didn't speak right away. She just stood beside him, arms crossed, staring at the dark horizon. "You didn't dodge," she said finally. "No need," he replied. "You should have." He looked at her. Would it have changed anything? She thought for a moment. Then, without a smile, said, "Yes, I wouldn't be wondering how your stomach is stronger than starship armor." Jackson chuckled. "Not stronger, just trained." Yelka glanced down. "I want to know how, and I want a rematch." "But not with fists." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Then what?" She looked him in the eyes. "Endurance." Jackson stood at the edge of the rocky valley just outside the training dome. The air was dry and thin. Each breath tasted like dust and challenge. Behind him, Yelka walked slowly, arms relaxed but eyes sharp as ever. This was no longer about strength. This was about endurance. Her challenge echoed in his mind. She didn't want a rematch with fists. She wanted to test limits in another way. Endurance trials were sacred among the Zarkan. It meant pushing past pain, past heat, past exhaustion. The one who collapsed first lost. "You sure you're ready for this?" Yelka asked. Jackson looked ahead. The trail cut through rough terrain. No shade, no rest. Just 20 kilometers of climbing, sprinting, and crawling. "I've had worse mornings," she smirked. "We'll see." A countdown beeped from the hollow watch. On her wrist, 3 tones. Then the light turned green. They both moved at once. The first leg was a sprint through jagged rocks. Yelka moved fast, her alien frame adapted for agility. Jackson's steps were heavier, more grounded. He didn't rush. He conserved. By the 4th kilometer, Yelka glanced back. Jackson was still behind her, steady, unbothered, not slowing, not speeding, just constant. She pushed harder. The next leg involved climbing the sharp spine of the canyon wall. Her hands gripped the stone like claws. She ascended quickly. Halfway up, she paused to look down. Jackson was climbing slowly but powerfully. He didn't use finesse. He used raw strength. Every motion precise. Every muscle under control. At the top, she reached first. Breathing hard, sweat trickled down her temple. She turned to face the path ahead, pretending not to feel the burn. In her legs, Jackson reached the top seconds later. No sound. No panting. Just a nod. They ran the ridge trail side by side. The sun climbed higher. Heat poured down like punishment. Yelka's suit adjusted, venting excess warmth. Jackson wore no armor. Just skin and determination. At kilometer 12, Yelka stumbled slightly. A loose stone rolled underfoot. She caught herself, but her heart rate spiked. Jackson noticed. "You good?" She didn't answer. She just sped up. They reached the descent-tight spirals of cracked stone and narrow ledges. One wrong step meant a fall. Yelka moved carefully now. Fatigue had found her joints. Jackson followed at a calm pace. Every movement looked like it had been measured 10 times before made. At the base, they faced the final stretch. A flat run across open desert. No shade, no wind. Just heat and endurance. Yelka's legs were trembling. Her chest heaved. She forced herself to keep moving. She couldn't lose this. Not after her pride was shattered before. Jackson stayed close. Always one step behind. Watching, measuring, never overtaking. Finally, at kilometer 20, they reached the finish marker, a tall stone with glowing glyphs. Yelka reached out to touch it. Her hand trembled. She barely managed to press her palm flat against it. Jackson did the same. 1 second later, they collapsed into the sand. Silence filled the space between their breathing. No one spoke for a long time. Yelka rolled onto her back. The sky above was bright. Blinding. "Why didn't you pass me?" Jackson looked over. "Wasn't the point. I came to finish with you. Not beat you." She turned her head toward him. "You could have won. Winning doesn't matter. You wanted to test me. Now you've seen what Earth endurance looks like." She closed her eyes. "You didn't squeal. You didn't cry. You didn't even complain." He smiled. "Should I have?" She laughed softly. "I thought you were a soft species." "I was wrong." Jackson sat up, brushing sand from his arms. "We're soft where it matters, and solid where it counts." She looked at him again. "Tomorrow we spar, you and me. No rules. Just movement." He nodded once, looking forward to it. The sparring ring inside the dome was empty, surrounded by steel pillars and thick padded walls. Training lights buzzed overhead, casting sharp shadows across the floor. Jackson stood in the center, stretching his arms with quiet focus. Yelka stepped into the ring. Her injured hand was healed now. She wore a lighter version of her suit, built for speed instead of armor. Her eyes locked onto his with fire that hadn't dimmed since the endurance trial. Ready for something faster? She asked. Jackson nodded. Always. A signal tone chirped from the wall. The spar began. Yelka struck first. A spinning kick aimed at his side. Jackson blocked with his forearm and stepped away. She followed with a sweep toward his legs. He jumped over it with ease. She grinned. You move better than you look. He smirked. And you hit softer than you talk. She charged again. Her punches came fast, sharp, precise. Jackson blocked 3, dodged 1, and caught the 5th in his palm. The impact didn't move him. Her hand stopped mid-air. Too slow, he whispered. Yelka growled and twisted free. She ducked low and tried to hook his ankle, but he planted his foot firmly. She met resistance like a wall. For the next minute, they moved in a blur. Yelka was fast, but Jackson was steady. She attacked from every angle, switching styles, trying to find a weakness. He met every move calmly. The watchers outside the ring began to gather, other soldiers, trainers, even officers. They whispered as they watched the two dance between strikes and counters. Yelka lunged again, aiming for his ribs with her elbow. Jackson let it come, then shifted sideways. Her momentum carried her forward. He grabbed her arm, spun her around, and pinned her without hurting her. She was breathless. You done? He asked, not even close. She dropped her weight and flipped backward, escaping his grip. As she landed, she spun and swept his leg. This time he went down, hitting the mat with a heavy thud. Yelka jumped and landed over him, her knee near his chest, her fist raised. Her breathing was fast. Her hair stuck to her face with sweat. He looked up, calm. You finally got me. She didn't strike. She just stared. Her hand trembled slightly, but not from weakness. He raised an eyebrow. What now? She lowered her fist and leaned closer. Now I ask you why you never get angry. He paused. Why would I be? Because I insulted your kind. Because I mocked your strength. Because I thought I was better. Jackson sat up slowly, careful not to unbalance her. You were taught to believe that. Doesn't make it true. Yelka looked down. You confuse me. He nodded. Good. It means you're thinking. She stood and helped him to his feet. The crowd around the ring clapped once. Just once. Then silence returned. Everyone walked away slowly, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Yelka walked beside him toward the locker hall. You fight with control, like every move has purpose. He shrugged. Earth teaches balance. Power without control is just destruction. She glanced sideways. That's not how we train. We strike until one falls. That's one way. But not the only way. She stopped walking. What if I trained your way? He looked at her. You'd be stronger then. Anyone else in this dome? She stepped closer. Teach me. Jackson smiled. Starting tomorrow, the next morning. The training dome echoed with the steady rhythm of movement. Not punches, not kicks, controlled movement, breathing in sync. Muscles flowing like water. In the middle of it stood Yelka, her posture upright, her focus sharp. Jackson stood behind her, arms folded, observing without speaking. This was their third hour, no strikes, no shouting. Only balance drills, footwork forms, and control techniques. Yelka moved through each pattern like a soldier, precise, fast. But the more she flowed, the more her face changed. Her breathing slowed, her expression softened. The fire was still there, but it was calm now. He walked around her, adjusting her stance gently. Drop the tension in your shoulders. Let your power rest until it's needed. She nodded and shifted. Again, her steps became smoother. Her arms, instead of slicing the air, began to glide. For a while, nothing was said. The hum of the dome's generators faded into the background. It was just the sound of air and footsteps. Then Yelka spoke quietly. This is different. I feel like I'm not at war with myself. That's the point. Jackson said. Later, they sat near the dome's glass wall. Outside, the twin suns cast golden light over the rocky landscape. Inside, a calm had settled around them, I thought. Control was weakness, she admitted. And I thought all Zarkans were rage-fueled warriors, he replied. She smiled. We are, most of us. I was raised that way. If I didn't fight, I was forgotten. Jackson leaned back. And now? Now I see there's another path. Not easier. Just different. He passed her a water capsule. Different doesn't mean. Wrong. She drank and looked at him. What made you this way? He paused before answering. I saw what happens when strength is used without purpose. I lost people because of it. So I trained for control. So I could stop things instead of destroying them. Yelka looked down at her hands. And now you're teaching me the same. I'm not trying to change you, he said. Just show you something new. She nodded. Then in a lower voice asked, why help me? I mocked you. I hit you. I called your kind soft. Because kindness isn't weakness, he answered. And because you're not beyond learning. For a long time, they sat in silence again. But it wasn't empty. It was full of understanding. Later that day, word spread through the base. An elite from the Zarkan High Council was visiting. Rumors said he wanted to review warrior performance rankings and adjust the tournament. Matchups. Yelka stiffened when she heard the name. Torvak, she whispered. You know him? Jackson asked. He trained me. He broke me more times than I can count. He said I was born to fight, not think. Jackson stood. Then let's prove him wrong. That night, Yelka returned to the ring. Not to fight. To practice, alone. She repeated Jackson's movements. Over and over. Flow, strike, breathe, recover. Her sweat dripped onto the floor. But she didn't stop. From the shadows Jackson watched. Not to correct. Not to step in. Just to witness. And for the first time he saw not just strength, but transformation. The warrior who once led with pride was now learning to lead with peace. The council transport arrived at sunrise. Its engines roared over the valley before landing in the middle of the outpost. Dust swept through the air. Soldiers lined up in formation as Torvak stepped down the ramp. He was tall, even for a Zarkan. His armor shimmered like molten metal, eyes cold, voice sharp. Every step he took was measured and full of command. Yelka stood near the edge of the courtyard. She felt the tension return. The weight of the past pressed against her spine. She had not seen him in 2 years. Torvak scanned the crowd, then walked straight toward her. I've read your reports, he said. You've improved. I've grown, she replied. His lip curled slightly. Your last evaluation placed you as unstable, prone to disobedience. That was before I knew control, she said. He looked at Jackson, who stood behind her. This human taught you? She nodded. He showed me another way to fight, another way to win. Torvak scoffed. Then prove it. Fight me. Here. Now. Gasps filled the air. Even the guards shifted uneasily. No one challenged Torvak. Not without consequence, Yelka stepped forward. No rules? No rules, he answered. The ring cleared. A circle formed. Soldiers watched with silent breath. Jackson stayed outside, his eyes fixed on her every move. Torvak attacked first. His strikes were brutal, heavy fists. Elbow slams. Power without pause. Yelka blocked most, absorbed some. She didn't fight back immediately. She moved like water. Dodging, breathing, waiting. When he lunged with both arms, she rolled under and struck the side of his knee. He stumbled. Not much, but enough. He snarled and spun, sweeping low. She jumped over and landed behind him. Her palm hit the center of his back. He turned again, slower now. You hesitate, he said. I calculate, she replied. He roared and charged. She stepped aside. He crashed into the wall. For a second, silence filled the ring. Yelka walked toward him. You always taught force. You never taught timing. He turned and rushed again. She caught his arm and used his own momentum. With a smooth twist, she flipped him onto the ground. She didn't punch. She didn't gloat. She stood tall and waited. Torvak lay on the floor, staring up at her, his breathing heavy, his pride wounded. You've changed, he said. I've evolved, she replied. He sat up slowly. Your score is updated. Top rank. No contest. Cheers erupted around the ring. Zarkan soldiers bowed their heads. The human crew clapped and smiled. But Yelka didn't react. She walked straight to Jackson and stood beside him. Torvak watched them both. Strange pair. Strong pair, Jackson said. Later that night, as stars lit the sky, Yelka sat beside Jackson on the edge of the platform. The ring lights behind them dimmed. The outpost was quiet. I was sure I would fail, she said. You didn't, he replied. I was scared of being weak. Now I'm scared of losing this balance. You won't, he said. You built it yourself. She turned to him. Why do humans care so much about purpose? Because without it, strength is just noise, he answered. She leaned against his shoulder, her voice softer now. You never squealed, he laughed. And you never gave up. Together they sat under the stars. No war. No fear. Just peace between two who had learned from pain and built something stronger.